It amazes me to see how God, the ultimate creator, uses creative people like musicians, painters, dancers, actors, and entertainers to impact the world on behalf of the gospel. I'm Melodie, and I am one of those creatives. Whether it's been as a songwriter, studio singer, worship leader, or in my current role at ACT International, it is so encouraging to see how the Lord uses creative people for His purposes in the most innovative ways. You're about to hear some of those behind-the-scenes stories on this next episode of Ministries in Action. My hope is that you will be encouraged to walk in the calling God has specifically laid out for your life as you hear from our special guests. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us today on Ministries in Action. Our guest is ML Morlock, and ML heads up a ministry called Behind Me Now. It is a ministry, a prison ministry, a ministry where she is a worship leader, a speaker, all kinds of things. You're going to love this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us here today, ML. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we're going to have fun.
We are going to have fun.
Talking about a lot of things. I feel like we've known each other for a couple of years, and in that, I've known a lot about what you do, but to prepare for this, I dug in on your website and all kinds of things that I found about you, and I started to realize, I think I know the Cliff Notes version of ML.
Right.
So today we're going to go a little bit deeper than that. And one of the things that I found, and I know this pertains to all of us that are in Christ, we see how our history and how, the specific families that God put us in, and our friendships and where we lived and all of those things play into our lives. And I think as we get older, we look back and say, oh, wow, now I kind of understand
I get it now.
why I was even in this family, or why this happened to me, or I had this experience. So I really, as I was reading your bio, that really hit me, that God has prepared you through the years for such a time as this in the ministry that you're doing.
Right. Elaborate
on that. Does that hit you as well?
Oh, yeah.
Do you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I being in the Air Force, we traveled and moved around a lot.
Yes.
So I did get to see a lot of different places. Born in Texas, went straight to Alaska, one of my favorite places to live, and just all over the country. It was a lot of fun, and learning how to develop friendships as I went, because we were always moved from place to place to place, and the family that I was put into, I mean, it wasn't the perfect family, but it was better than a lot of families that I've come to know in my ministry now. But my father right away instilled in all of us the things that he saw was our particular gift. And for me, it was music. At 4, I was picking out green sleeves on the piano by ear. And he was giving piano lessons to my older brother and sister. And so one day he heard somebody in there practicing the piano, and he walked in expecting to see my older brother, but he saw me playing what I had been listening to him practice.
Wow.
And my father called my mother over and said, I think we're giving piano lessons to the wrong kids, So immediately they started giving lessons to me. My sister got a horse and my brother got a drum set.
Okay.
And so,
so wise, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so from then on, learning how to do music and taking classical and all of that, and then starting to write my own songs at age 13 and things like that. And you do look back at your life and you see, now it kind of makes sense. But, but the thing I will say about this is that when I graduated from high school, by the time I graduated, we had just landed in Alabama, and my parents had divorced. So I was now living in Alabama with a stepfather who was lovely, and a whole new situation, because I was in Ohio, a Buckeye, and now I'm a Southern Belle, so go figure that one, right? But I remember trying to figure out what I was going to take in college. What was I going to do?
Right.
And I didn't really know, because back then, even if you were a creative, nobody would say, go for it. Just do your thing, you know? Because back then, as a musical person, my mother saw it as something not very stable. You know, how are you going to make a money at that, live at that? And so when I was trying to decide on what field to go into college, I remember, you know, and I was racking my brain and trying to figure things out. And yes, I took some of those little tests and stuff that they give you in college, but my mother said, well, why don't you go into teaching? Girls teach. And just being a 17 or 18-year-old, I went, okay, you know, and so I went into education, and here I was dripping with musical abilities in front of my mother. And I forgive you, Mom, but you know, she was just being a mom. Right? Because she wanted me to have a career with a 401k and insurance and all that. Yeah. So off to school I go. I went to Auburn University, got education in, and I didn't know it at the time, but I'm a very gifted teacher. I didn't know that was one of my giftings.
And maybe your mom did.
Maybe,
at some point.
She probably did, because she was a wise woman,
Yeah,
you know,
she
but
was.
you don't think that when you're 17
Of course.
about your mom.
Of course.
So, but, you know, so I went off, got that degree, and before long I got another degree, and, you know, and I hated being in the classroom. I did. I hated being in the public school system and in the elementary stream, because I didn't want to teach the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. I wanted to teach the things of God. I have been wanting to do that since I was a child. You know, I mean, I used to line up stuffed animals on my bed, pull out Keith Green albums, and get my hairbrush microphone out and sing to them until their little stuffed souls got saved, you know? And, but who knew down the road I'm going off into education.
Right.
But that education that I got and the certificate that I got in ESL, English as a Second Language, opened up the doors for me to move to Ecuador and teach down there. And while I was down there, I got to teach school, but I also taught on the prophetic and how to hear the voice of God in a bunch of different churches and venues, and then I was always put on worship teams down there. So I still got to use my gift down there, but my teaching gift and certificate and degree opened up the doors for me to work in a really affluent school system.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
wow. And you know, just to throw this in, speaking of education, you've just gotten your master's of theology.
I did.
So good for you.
Thought I'd-
Congratulations on
you
that.
know,
That's a big deal.
it is, girl,
It
because
is.
you know, when you're at a certain age, you're like, I'm never going back, you know. But I found that when I go back the second time in, I was more into it, especially now that it was something I really wanted to learn about.
Right.
And it took me 4 years to get the BS, and then actually 2 more years to go in and get the master's, because I was taking it slowly. But I'm so glad I did it, because
Absolutely.
The only reason why I even wanted that to begin with is that when I am teaching, or if I am at a conference or teaching even a Bible study, I want to know how to look things up and go deeper when I'm teaching, or whether I'm mentoring my girls or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
that's
Well, okay. So mentoring, and
Yes.
and then you said earlier, and I think this is just interesting, as you were talking about, you moved all the time and you had to make new friends, and I can totally see how that plays into now your relationships with women and wanting to be a part of their lives. And we know that the younger women, you know, look to the older women, and I feel like in both of our lives, we're kind of both, you know. I have older women in my life that I'm still looking to, but God has also put us in places where we are the older women for the younger, and I'm honored to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a big part of your ministry. So
Right.
behind me now. Tell us about just what all that encompasses, and where did the name come from?
Where did the name go? Oh my God. Rob Fraser, you know Rob.
Yes.
He's always like, that's the best name ever. I love Behind
is
Me
a-
Now. And I'll tell you how I got it. But it evolved when I was ready to leave teaching school. And I kept going. And I was, at the same time while I was teaching, I was also doing concerts and speaking at retreats, and I was doing things within the body of Christ already.
Right.
But teaching in the school system. But I was just, like I said, not wanting to do the school any longer. And so when I finally made the decision, the Lord said, I want you to get out of the boat and just come. Just, you're just willing to come a little, get out. One foot, okay, now the other foot. So finally when I did it and resigned, I remember going, okay, God, now what? I mean, do you want me to take all of my giftings, all of my stuff that I do, and go back into the body of Christ and to use those giftings there? And I felt him say, yes, but I also want you to take all that good stuff, and I want you to go into the state penitentiary to the women in there. And I was like, I know you're not talking to me. I mean, there's no stage in there. There's no spotlight. Yeah. There's no applause, of course I'm being silly, but those women have killed people, And so I was like, I don't think you're talking to me. But I got in touch with somebody else that had been doing it, Judy Feltz.
Yes.
And I said, hey, can you take me in? I just want to check it out and see what it's like. And I just want to sit in the back. And she said, well, what do you do? I've been hearing about you. And I said, well, I can lead worship and I can teach a mean Bible study. And she's like, well, can you come and just do 30 minutes of worship and 30 minutes of teaching? And I'm going,
wow.
I'm like, no, see, I just want to watch. No, it'll be fine. No, I just want to watch. ML, really, you'll be fine. The women that show up for chapel, they want to be there. No, please. Don't. But I did. I went, and the women were crying during the worship and crying during the message. And then when I left there, they were hugging me before I left. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. I really didn't know what to expect, Mel. But when I went back out into my car and I'm sitting there outside of the penitentiary and I'm going, Lord, I don't know what you want from this. I don't know where to even go from here.
Right.
And I said, I just can't see me doing this all the time. I don't even know what to say to them. And I remember him distinctly saying, just tell them I'm not mad at them.
Oh, wow.
And that will open up so many conversations. And I thought, I can do that. And before long, that's how this ministry was born. Behind Me Now. Now, to tell you how I got the name. So I'm single, as you know. And at the time, I've been doing this for 8 years now, Behind Me Now. So Behind Me Now is still doing worship and retreats and speaking, but the other side is the fun thing that I love doing that too, but this is the cool thing, is working with these women.
Yes.
And helping them when they come out and mentoring them and taking worship and Bible study in, but mentoring them when they come out, helping them learn how to do a budget, helping them to get new tires on their cars, helping them to, whatever it is that they need to get back on their feet, get a computer, get a cell phone, learn how to balance your checkbook, all of these things they don't know how to do.
Right.
Especially because some people don't have good families. No, they
That's
just
right.
don't. And they had no mentoring growing up. But anyway, I was breaking up with a fiance. And breaking up is so hard to do.
Yes.
And
There's a song in there.
Yeah, I think there is a song, Breaking Up. Anyway, so I was traveling home from visiting somebody in Atlanta, and I had a 4-hour drive. And during that time, I was trying to think of a name for this ministry. And, they say to go online and just look to see who already has it,
right.
So you can get the domain. And I had been looking up a bunch of different stuff, and everybody had everything that I kept thinking of. And so anyway, when I was coming home from Atlanta, I think I just got a text or something from him. I don't know, but I was hurting. And I was crying about this guy. And I was driving, and I was going, I just wish this was all over. I just wish it was just behind me now. That's a great name. That's a great name. That's how I came up with Behind Me Now.
Wow.
And I was like, I got to get home and see if the domain's been taken, and I just get home. And first thing I did when I got in was get on my computer. And so it's now mine, because I want these women to know when they get out, and not whether they've been in prison or not, but we all have stuff, right?
Yes.
That we need to know is behind us.
Yes. That's
And
powerful.
it's behind us now.
Yeah, and you've probably thought of this, but another thing that I think of with that name is that when these women come out and you're helping them, that you are behind them now.
Yeah.
That's another connotation of it, and
All
God
the partners.
is, I'm behind you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I love to hear someone tell me
Yes.
that. You know?
Right.
So,
when
yeah.
these girls come to me and they say, you know, because if my department pays for their new tires or whatever,
Right.
I always tell them, I want you to know it's just not God and me that's behind you. I have got so many partners
Right.
that know that this is where this money is going, and they
Right.
already love you, even though you may never meet them. I want you to know you got people that are behind you.
That's so good.
And yeah, it is. And
Lots of reasons.
Yes.
Yeah, for that name.
For that name.
That's a
Good
great
name.
Great name. So tell us a story of someone that has been impacted by your ministry, and I'm sure you could think of many stories.
million.
But tell us one that would encourage us and inspire us.
Well, I could tell you one of the first ones that really has a full circle story, and it's kind of, when you say it's full circle, you might go, how's that full circle? But you'll see. But there was a girl named Kelly, and she's had a very, very hard life. In her immediate family, I think there's been like 3 or 4 suicides. That depression thing just followed them greatly. And she and her families were all involved in drugs and things like that. Well, it just so happened her brother called her at one point and called her and said, I'm over here at this like Motel 6 and I'm going to do it this time. I'm really going to do it. And she's like, no, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And she ran over there to him and she's like, let's go out. Let's go get a Subway and we're going to come back and we're just going to party and get your mind off of things. Well, partying meant drugs. And this guy already had a hard time. He already had sleep apnea and slept with a oxygen thing. Anyway, long story short, when they came back, they were partying, and she gave him one of her prescriptions, and it's a downer. And when she woke up in the morning, he had died because his oxygen level went down so low.
Wow.
So she got slapped in jail.
Wow.
And she got charged with I guess it's a homicide, or I don't know what the difference degrees is, but they gave her like 6 years. So she's already got guilt, right?
Absolutely.
Guilt, and she loved this brother. So she already has that, and now society is going, go sit out for a while. And so when she got out, and understand a lot of poverty, a lot of stuff going on in that family. So when she got out, I always try to find out, what do you want to do first? What do you want to do? And she was like, I want to go get some ice cream. And I said, okay. Some girls will say, I want some Starbucks. I want Kentucky Fried Chicken. She wanted ice cream. So we went and got ice cream. And then we needed to get her reinstated, her driver's license. So I said, do you know how much it is to get it reinstated? And she said, $200. And I said, okay, let's go. Behind me now is going to take care of this. So we went and we spent all day long trying to get her driver's license reinstated. When we finally got up to the counter, the lady said, do you want to pay all this today or the $200? And Kelly said, just the $200, because she knew I was going to be paying for it. And I asked the lady, I said, how much, what do you mean all of it? How much is it? And she said, well, it's $800. And I said, no, Kelly, we're going to take care of it all right now. Because Kelly doesn't have any money.
Right.
And we still had to find her a job. And so I said, no. And I told the lady, I said, we'll take care of it right now. And Kelly got extremely quiet. And by the time I got everything done and we were walking out toward out in the parking lot, I was expecting, thank you so much. But all it was is, her head was down walking the whole way. And I was going, Kelly, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And she's like, we get in the car. I look at her and I'm like, what's wrong? And these big crocodile tears. And she just said, nobody cares about me. No one's ever done anything like that before, ever. And that's when I said, well, I'm telling you, Jesus really loves you. He really does. And he's behind you. So am I. And so are all my partners. And you're going to be fine. You're going to make it. You're going to make it, and we're going to work on it. Well, so she got out. We got her a job. Some really great things were happening. One of the things I always tell my mentees is, don't move back home if you can possibly help it, because that's where the trouble began. That's where all your old friends are. That's where all the drugs are. Everybody's going to come out of the wood. We're glad you're out. Hey, let's go party. So, but Kelly had a reason why she wanted to move back home, and it was like 3.5 hours away in Tennessee. East Tennessee, and she had a reason to go back home because she had a daughter who had a daughter. And her granddaughter now is 5 years old, and she wants to be part of that 5-year-old's life.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
So, but her daughter wants nothing to really do with Kelly because of her own experiences growing up, right?
Right.
A lot of dysfunction. It's what the devil does. And so when she finally got there, things weren't really well. I mean, like I said, poverty and living in a trailer where the floor's falling in. And behind me now did send some money to help us some things. Well, then eventually she ended up in the hospital. She had Hep C, diabetes. She got bitten by a brown recluse spider. They had to do surgery on a lot of stuff. And she lost so much weight. Because of all these things. And I said, where's your family? She goes, no one's even checked on me. I said, has anybody come to see me? No, nobody's come to see me. And the Lord said, go see her and take her a goodie bag and just show up and just love on her. So I just got things together. I just went out to see her. And when I walked in that hospital room, she was like, and I said, I told you. We're going to do this together. And so anyway, she was just so surprised. And so that was an incredible moment for her to know that the love of God is tangible.
Yes.
And it's real. And a couple weeks later, I was trying to check in with her, and I wasn't getting any response from her. So I did get in touch with her daughter. I knew of her daughter, and I found her on Facebook or whatever. And as I was talking to her daughter, I said, do you know where your mom is? She says, no, we don't really know. I said, well, a couple weeks ago, she was in the hospital. So finally her daughter said, well, we're going to check into it. She got back in touch with me. She said, she's in ICU and she's not going to make it. We don't think she is. Well, so I didn't know when I was there the last time, that was the last time I'd ever see her.
Oh, my goodness.
She did pass. And this young girl with the 5-year-old is feeling some sort of way now because she's pushed her mom out of her life and now her mom is gone.
Right.
So it's just a never-ending vicious cycle that the devil does to people. Now the guilt and the condemnation on the daughter.
Right.
And I just said, is there anything that you could do? I said, I would love to come to the funeral if it's okay. She says, ML, she said, will you say some things? We can't even afford a preacher. And so I'm going, sure. I've never done a funeral, Mel. I've never done one.
Be instant in season.
I know.
And that's what you were.
Okay.
You're right.
I was calling Rob Fraser on the phone on the way there. Okay, give me some verses, and he's like, okay. And so I'm writing some things down. I get there and got up, and I officiated this funeral with these people I didn't even know. And we ended up over at the burial site. And I was able to be there and say some things as she was lowered and, all the tears and all that. But now I have, the reason why I say it comes around full circle is because now I have a relationship with the daughter.
Wow.
And she still touches in with me from time to time. And that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago, But she just the few things that the Lord spoke to her through me to bring her some comfort and to release her mother.
Yes.
And to put it all behind her now.
Yeah.
And to reach toward the prize ahead of her, which is her own daughter. You saw all the things that what the enemy did to your daughter, to your mother, and how he raised you. So now you know what you need to be doing with your daughter and bring her to know Jesus. And we're in church, ML. We're in church. I mean, it's just
so great.
Oh, it's so amazing.
So great. And was it Kelly? Was that
Kelly.
Her name? Yes.
Kelly. Yeah.
And you had some kind of a piece that I read that was like, I
remember Kelly.
remember Kelly. And
I remember Kelly.
Yeah, and just how that plays in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that is powerful. And back to what we were saying in the beginning, just we just never know what God is going to ask us to do.
Right.
The opportunities that he's going to open up that we could never see coming. And
right.
So often, and I've been in your shoes of all of a sudden thrust into something and going, wait, how can I be about to do this? I did not train for this. And then you just watch that in our weakness, he is strong. And there's that scripture in 1 Peter that says, if anyone speaks, let him speak as if speaking the very words of God. And so often when I'm going into something that I don't know what's even going to come out, I just pray that and say, give me your words, and I'll do my best, to use them. And so
we should all be doing that.
Absolutely. Well, and so speaking of the Word of God being foundational in your life, what are
now that I have a master's, I can tell you anything you want to know.
Yes, okay, all right.
No,
Well,
I'll still have to
we'll
look
do
things
another
up.
podcast to get some of that. But what's a verse or two that is foundational in your life? Something.
Well, of course, the Philippians 3:13, where when he says, but this one thing I do. Paul's saying, this one thing I do, I forget about what's behind and I press toward the goal, which is the prize, not just a goal, but the prize.
That's good. Yes.
And Jesus is the prize, the power of his resurrection, the suffering of his fellowship, the fellowship of his sufferings, let's say that right. So that one's a big one for me, but probably one of the other ones that is big for me is I relate myself a lot to back in Numbers, the book of Numbers, where it's talking about the Levites, because I really feel like for me, I'm a Levite, and the Levites, a lot of people think that they're musical, yeah, they are, but they're more than that. They ministered not only to in the temple to Yahweh, but they assisted Aaron, they assisted the priest, but they also ministered to the people.
That's right.
So that's how I see myself. I keep saying, Father, as being in a Levite role, how do I worship and minister to you and love on you and tell you how worthy and how holy and how beautiful you are? And the way I do that is by every single person that he brings before me. I have to minister also to that person and bring them into being able to also worship Christ in truth and beauty and all that. So it's always this, it's always that, and it's always this. So Numbers, I get so much out of Numbers. I go back and read Numbers all the time.
That's great. So it's about inspiring others. It's also about living it out in front of others. And of course, like you said, and let's just lay this out, never perfectly, but just in such a way that as people see us, hopefully more than most of the time they see Christ in us as our strength and as our hope and as our peace. So what inspires you in your ministry? You seem like it is so life-giving to you to do what you're doing.
Right.
What are some of the things? I mean, I'm sure it's the women, the opportunities, those kind of things. But what inspires you to maybe what I'm asking is, in the times when it isn't fun and you're having to do something that's more difficult, or you're not feeling very good and God's calling you to do it, what are the things that inspire you to move forward?
Just trying to get one foot out of the bed every time, because some days I don't want to get up and do it because I'm dealing with my own stuff, right? But just knowing that when you start to minister to somebody, everything else fades. It really does. When you are able to pour your life into somebody, and mentoring is a big deal.
It is.
People don't, and that's just not like, here's a Bible verse, let's memorize it.
Okay, so walk down that road. What do you do? I know how many people are you actually mentoring right now on sort of more of a one-on-one than in a big group? One or two, 5 or 6?
I got about 6 girls that I'm still very involved with. I've had quite a few that have eventually filtered their way out of my life, and they've gone back onto their own homes, or they've moved to another state, and we stay in touch. But there's about 6 of them right here in the area that I'm still involved with, and then I'll take on more this year as well. But what mentoring looks like, it is discipleship. So there is some biblical things that we do. So we'll do, we'll teach them biblical standards. We went through this one recent book called The Purple Book, which is a cool book. But so there's that kind of mentoring and bringing them into knowing Jesus more. But then there's also just the logistics of stuff that they never learned growing up.
Right.
Well,
and even things like you mentioned, cell phones and getting them new tires and things like that, because I'm sure when women have been, for the ones that you're mentoring that have been incarcerated, I mean, you just think how technology passes us by from last month till right now.
Oh my gosh.
Much less if you're there for years.
I know, right.
And so that's mentoring. That's
Yeah.
just helping them and making them maybe not feel stupid
Right.
by asking a question,
Yeah,
but saying, let's learn this together.
Yeah, you do. Because like every time I have my cell phone, and right now my cell phone wants to upgrade and I keep going, no, because I don't want to see anything new. It's hard.
It is.
And so take that to somebody that's been locked up for 15 years or 20 years or whatever, and everything has changed. Everything has changed, let alone somebody that's only been in there 6 years or whatever. But yeah, so you've got to help them with, like, if they don't have a computer, I mean, how do you look for a job? They're trying to do everything on their phone that they can't even see. And I'm like, we're going to get you a computer because you got to come up with a resume, all this stuff. So behind me now, we'll buy computers. We'll buy them a new cell phone. And then we just start. Let's get a resume going. And then we got to apply for jobs. And a lot of them are in transitional homes.
Right.
And the
Okay.
transitional homes will already start doing that. Judy Feltz is one of the transitional homes that I work with. I also work with another organization called Leaving the Cocoon. They're the ones that got me involved with doing the mentoring in the state prison penitentiary. So that's really, I want to give a shout out to those two ministries because they've mentored me.
Yes.
So, but then you help them get on board and help them learn how to do these things. And then once they get the job, what are you doing with your money? So you got to budget. Because they don't think about the bills that are coming up and what they got to prepare for in the future. And, oh, y'all got to pay car insurance. I got to save it for the next month for my car insurance. And teaching them about tithing.
Right.
Things like that. So they are learning how to budget. And so when you're asking me what inspires me, it would be seeing them succeeding and doing well.
Yes.
And then when the light bulb comes on and they find their rhythm. Like it wasn't long ago, I guess like last year, I was really surprised that one girl called me and she said, ML, can I borrow $100? And I said, what's up? And she says, well, I'm renting a house and I haven't been going out and check the mailbox because I don't think to go check the mailbox because when you're in prison, they bring you your mail.
Right.
She goes, I hadn't been thinking about checking the mailbox, and I went out there, and I've got tons of stuff, and one of them is a notice from the power company saying they're going to turn off my electricity, that it's delinquent, and I got to pay something. I said, what does it say? And well, it's only like 30 days past due. I said, they're not going to turn it off yet. I said, call them and ask them, can I just go ahead? Can I put something toward it? And and they will. And she said, how do you know? Well, you know how I know? Because my mom taught me.
Right.
And they didn't know. This is a girl in her 40s. And she didn't know that she can call the power company and say, hey, if I send you 25, will you keep my power on a little longer or whatever? And so, I mean, things like that we don't even think of.
Of course.
Right. And I said, you do that first. And if they say, no, you need more, I said, I'm going to send you something. So it's just little things like that. The stuff we've learned about life.
Right.
So when I see it, that click and they do some of these things and they're progressing well and they're involved in church and they're trying to walk the walk, you go, yeah. It's like we were able to help that one.
Yes.
It's like, that story about all the star, what are those on the shoreline, all the starfish.
Oh yeah, and
you know what I'm talking about?
Then you can't save one. But
they all come up on the shoreline, and this kid is carrying out a bucket, and he's putting them in, and there's thousands of them all over. And somebody comes up and goes, "Why are you doing that?" And he's throwing them out, back into the water. Why are you doing that? You can save them all, and he'll pick up one. He says, I can save this one.
That's exactly right.
And there's just something about it. They're worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
They're worth it. If I'm worth it, if you're worth it, than they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They are.
So that's what inspires me.
Well, one more question before we tie this up. I listened to your story, and it's similar to mine and honestly, it's similar to most people I know who are creatives and who are following after the Lord.
Yeah.
God doesn't give us this blueprint when we're 25 years old and say, here's what you will do the rest of your life. He says, I think it's an Elizabeth Elliot quote where she just says, do the next thing. It's also in Frozen too, but do the next right thing. But there's something to that where God doesn't want us to look ahead. He just wants our obedience step by step by step, one step at a time. And I look at your life and see how the Lord prepared you in so many ways. But when you were 25, you could never have said that in my later years, I'm going to be working with a prison ministry. I'll have this ministry called Behind Me Now. We'll be helping women. Right. You just never could have pulled that out.
Right.
And I have similar things in my life as well. So with that, what would you say to men and women that are out there that feel some kind of a calling on their lives? They don't really understand it. They know they can sing, they can draw, they can paint, they can act. They want to use their abilities for the Lord. They feel the Lord calling them to something bigger than they can imagine. How would you encourage them from where you were to where you are even right now?
Yeah. There's actually probably 3 things that I would say to encourage them, especially if they're a younger person. In fact, I just had this conversation on the phone with the 29-year-old this morning. She was stayed a couple of days with me. She's in Atlanta, but she comes here to do media work, and she works with artists and all this stuff. But she had come to town, and she was expressing to me one morning, yesterday morning, about how, she had recently was let go from her job with this record label, and it really did a ding on her confidence. This is a gifted girl. Okay, she's gifted.
Right.
And this morning when I woke up, the Lord just quickened me and call her right now and say this to her.
Okay.
So this is what I would say to any young artist or anybody, no matter if they're creative or not.
Right, that's true.
Because we all have giftings and we're all called to do something. Well, especially when you're young, the enemy's going to start dinging on that right away. He's going to start you and tell you you're no good at this or whatever. And he did it with me with my music. I was playing Chopin Polonaise at the age of 9 and 10. I was really good on the keyboard. But then people started making comments about the way I played the piano or whatever, or my voice or whatever, and started picking away at me. And then I'm offered a record deal. But they want me to lose 20 pounds. Oh, you're still not good, And my self-confidence you wouldn't know it by looking at me because I put on. But my self-confidence, Mel, the enemy knew right where to get me.
Always does.
From childhood. Pick. And so I told this 29-year-old this morning, I said, look, I know you took a ding from that job. I said, and especially with your talent, I said, it's a true gift, it's true talent, and I want you to start recognizing when those things happen, when somebody says something about your gift or whatever, or if you need to get better at it, then you take it before the Lord and say, is this true of me? Do I need to fix this or get better at this? And if he says, no, you're fine, I'm developing you, then you take everything else that person said and you just throw it out the window and think of it no more.
Yes.
So don't let the enemy come in and start picking at your gift. Second thing that I would say for sure that you want to do is if you're trying to step out into ministry, you only want to do what Jesus said when he said, I only do what I see the Father doing. Because a lot of times when you're wanting to start out in ministry, you just want to do it all.
Right.
I want to do a little of this, I want to do that. But he's going to get those those binoculars on you, because you might start off with a wide ministry, but then there's going to be toot, single it in on one thing in particular, or two things in particular. For me, it's doing the creative stuff within the body and singing at conferences and all this, but the other side, the other lens, is working with these women and mentoring them. And then I take them to my conferences and I take them to retreats, but that's what he's going to do. So only do what you see the Father doing, and listen to him, because you can't do it all, and you can't save everybody, but you can save that one.
That's right. That's right.
And the other thing I would say would be when you're figuring out what you're called to do, even when you're older, to make sure that you're listening to what the Spirit says.
That's good.
Not, because we're 3-part beings, right? We're body, soul, and spirit. And so not doing what your body is dictating for you to do, and not doing what your soul dictates, which is what? What's your soul? It's your mind, it's your will, and your emotions. Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't a trick question.
All right.
You're like, where's she going with this?
Way deep. Yeah. Yes.
No,
exactly,
but it's your
You're
mind.
right. It's who you are. It's
right.
who you are, for sure.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to do things. You don't want to pick a ministry based on your emotions and just, well, I want to do this for homeless or abortion clinics or whatever. You need to track in and say, Spirit, I want to hear what the Spirit of God says to me. What is it that he's going to gift me with to do? Not just because I really want to help with that, or I feel bad about those people.
Right.
But a lot of times it's kind of going to be what you're passionate about anyway.
For sure. Yeah.
So you got to learn how to balance that out.
Well, because he gives you the desires of your heart.
Yes.
And it's that whole, we grew up, or I did. I grew up thinking that verse meant that he would give me whatever I desired. Right. And it's like, well, that's a great verse.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I'm claiming that every day. But in reality, he puts those desires in us and then fulfills them.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
That is so good.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for what you are doing, really so often for the least of these. You really are.
Thanks.
And, not to just categorize all of these women in that place, but I love that your eyes are open to needs that, all of a sudden they just come across your path and you're like, let's take care of it. Let's do it. Let me just help you.
Yeah.
And these women, they need love. They need encouragement. They need someone to be behind them and encouraging them. So thank you for what you do.
Well, we all need that.
We do.
We all need it.
Absolutely.
We all need a cheerleader.
Yes, we do. We do. So thanks for your time today. And thank you all for joining us as well. And I want to remind you, and this verse really just so ties into what we've been talking about, but the word says that we are God's workmanship, all of us, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. And so be encouraged with that. I pray that will be something that guides your next steps. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us for today's Ministries in Action podcast. If you are looking for a home to use your unique talents for the kingdom, visit our website at actinternational.org. We would love to help you fulfill your God-given mission.